But lesson number one is pain that is growth versus pain that is damage. And so this is a theme or concept that I've discussed many times on the show because I've seen this really important differentiation that we have to make as human beings of being able to differentiate between pain that leads to growth and pain that leads to damage. And of course, being able to go towards the pain that leads to growth, going into it even though it might not feel good, especially at the beginning, and to avoid the pain that leads to damage. We are biological beings, and all biological beings, one of the ways we can understand even what feelings are is to help us know what to go towards and what to avoid. In the most basic fundamental level, we can delineate all feelings as either approach feelings or avoid feelings, meaning, this tastes good, I'm going to eat it, go towards it. This hurts my hand, I'm going to go away from it, avoid feelings. And so this works most of the time for us, this type of approach, avoid type of a mechanism. The problem is that we very quickly can recognize as human beings that if we only go towards things that feel good and avoid things that feel bad, almost like a hedonistic type of mindset, we will live a very unsatisfied and unfulfilling life. If anything, we can say this is type like a childish state to stay in, where we just approach the things that feel good and avoid the things that don't feel good. So we know that to live a good life, we're going to have to be able to embrace the pains and the discomforts that lead to growth, while still avoiding the ones that will hurt us, that will lead to damage. And when I say pain, it could also be discomforts. It doesn't have to physically hurt. It might not even hurt at all, but the discomfort might be what we are avoiding. And we know that often the discomfort is what leads to us to grow and to become stronger. This brings up when we look in the world of exercise or weightlifting, a very clear example of that. We hear, no pain, no gain. If you don't feel any pain, you're not going to get any stronger. And that's very true. We know that when we look at how even exercise or weightlifting helps build our muscles, there's several factors that take place. There's the tension that puts on the fibers, but also there are these micro tears that happen in a muscle that then those tears being repaired will lead to growth and strength, becoming stronger. And so it has to hurt a little bit in order for you to grow. So literally, if there's no pain, you won't have any gain. You can't get stronger. And so the same thing is true psychologically. Now, even in weightlifting, it's not that all pain equals gain or all pain is good. If you work out with, let's say, bad form, you're going to hurt your body, maybe knees, ligaments, tendons. You won't actually get stronger. You will hurt your body if you do things the wrong way. Or if you do way too much weight all at once, instead of a micro tear, you might have some really big tears, which won't make your muscles stronger. It'll leave you injured and in need of rest and repair, possibly even more serious intervention. So it's not that literally all pain leads to gain, but that the right type of pain will lead to gains, and the wrong types of pains will lead to damage. We can see how it's a lot easier to say no pain, no gain, but the reality of it is more complex than that, even in the world of weightlifting and exercise. So we have to look at our own lives and recognize that we are constantly faced with this struggle and this battle, because the default is to go away from the things that don't feel good. But we know we need to embrace them in order to do better, or to become stronger and become the best version of ourselves. So we are faced with this challenge of differentiating between the pain that leads to growth and the pain that leads to damage. Now, we also have, I call a lazy lawyer inside of our heads. And the lazy lawyer, it's kind of like a oxymoron, because I'll just say he is not lazy. He actually works really hard, but what he's trying to do is to keep us lazy, or really it's keeping us in the same place, keeping us in a comfort zone. And he's working nonstop, And he's the reason why it could be so hard to get ourselves going or to get ourselves to do certain things. He'll come up with really convincing arguments like, oh, you should maybe start another day, or maybe you're not the type of person that does these things, or what's the point of doing something different or something new? Or in a relationship, he might say something like, oh, you're having such a good day. Why would you bring up this uncomfortable conversation or topic? Just let things be. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so we all have this inner voice. Sometimes we don't even hear it. It's more unconscious, that is trying to keep us in the comfort zone. And the comfort zone itself is this interesting concept or phrase, because when you hear comfort zone, it sounds like it should feel good. If I'm sitting in this chair and I tell you it's comfortable, that means it feels good to sit in this chair. It is a nice feeling. But we talk about the comfort zone psychologically. It's a bit more complex than that, because sometimes our comfort zones will feel miserable. We'll feel really bad in that comfort zone. But what the comfort means is that it's something familiar, in the sense that I know how even it's going to feel bad. I know what to predict and what happens here. But that's more comfortable for me than facing the unknown of doing something different, not knowing what's going to happen and not knowing how it's going to feel. And this comes up a lot in therapy, where we'll talk about a comfort zone and a client might say, oh, I've been, feeling horrible about this thing to the point where I don't even leave my house anymore, or whatever it might be. Let's say it's kind of a stereotypical type of example. And if we try to explore this and say, could this be part of your comfort zone? Sometimes the reaction is, how can you say it's part of my comfort zone? I hate this. I'm miserable because of this. And so that's the part that can be confusing, is that it doesn't mean comfort as in, oh, this feels so good. It just means comfort as in, this is familiar. It might be, you might feel miserable staying at home and not doing anything or going out, seeing people, but that might feel more comfortable for you than facing the unknown of putting yourself out there, going out, or trying to even connect with friends or initiate plans, whatever the issue might be. We have to recognize that doesn't mean that we feel good in our comfort zones. It just means this is kind of, as we say, the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Now, usually in the ways that I've been talking about it, this is the lazy lawyer, or this kind of comfort zone, making us avoid things that might hurt, but that might help us grow. But we also see the opposite side of things too, the lazy lawyer, if you want to call it that, keeping things the same way. When we keep doing something that hurts us and fool ourselves by saying, well, this is the good type of pain. So, for example, people will be in a very unhealthy, toxic relationship, but they'll tell themselves that, well, love hurts, or relationships are difficult, so we have to just, stick this through, or I'm not going to give up on this. Or the connection is with drugs and drug addiction, that it's hurting us, but we keep going back to this thing that feels comfortable, that this is just the thing that feels good for me. And there's this big connection between relationships and addiction, and even in the forms of attachment or brain function, we might see some similarities. But I also use this analogy with clients who are going through a breakup, that when you've gone through a breakup, the thing that will make you feel the best, the fastest, is to reconnect with that person you just broke up with. So you miss that person, you are hurting. If you call them, see them, connect with them, that will most quickly make you feel good. But that's similar to a drug addiction. If you stop smoking after a long time, you're going to feel withdrawal symptoms that don't feel good. Irritability, maybe headaches, pain, sadness, all sorts of things. And the thing that will most quickly make you feel better is to smoke a cigarette or somehow take in nicotine. That will give you the fastest relief. Nothing else will be able to give you something that will feel better. But this is a very clear example of, again, this facing the pain that leads to growth, which would be to feel uncomfortable as your body withdraws from this toxic substance, rather than going back and having that toxic substance because it's comfortable and familiar. And really, that's a great depiction of this comfort zone, that it doesn't necessarily mean it's something good. It could literally be putting poison into your body that makes us stay feeling comfortable. It's not a good thing. It's not a sign of health. It doesn't necessarily have to feel good for our actual body, even if it gives us a relief, but it is the comfort zone that we are in. And so similarly, you're in a relationship, and the fastest thing that will have you feeling better is to talk to that person again, but it's better for you to face that, if you want to call it, withdrawal symptoms of not talking to them, to let yourself unlearn that relationship or that connection over time so that you can actually move on from that relationship. So we can see that on the surface, it could seem very simple to differentiate between the pain that is related to growth versus the pain that leads to damage. But it's really hard in our day-to-day lives because we're so good at tricking ourselves into doing things that feel good in the moment. And in later lessons, I'll talk about this same theme when it comes to parenting and working with your kids, that we can also put that same principle on them, and we might not let them face the important discomforts and the important pains that will actually help them grow. And recognizing that although we might think we're protecting them, what we're actually doing is preventing them from growing. And that happens a lot. But we have to make sure we don't do that to ourselves. To live a good life, to live a life we're going to feel good about when we look back on it, we have to be good at this skill of differentiating between the pain that leads to growth and the pain that leads to damage, and going into the pain that leads to growth and recognizing and avoiding the pains that actually lead to damage. Like so much, advice or common wisdom, it's very simple to say what I'm saying, but the execution of it, actually figuring that out in our own lives, can be quite difficult, which is why we have to stay mindful, self-reflective, aware, even sometimes ask other people to help us find our way through these different types of pain so we can encourage ourselves to go towards growth and towards a better life, a more meaningful life, and not to go towards the things that will damage us, and to avoid those things that will actually help us grow. So that's lesson 1, figuring out and differentiating between the pain that leads to growth and the pain that leads to damage. We'll have more lessons in future shows. Let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.